Falcon Rex. All right, here we go with the turnover chains. He says, keep them. They were originally commissioned by former players. Mandy just took credit for it. Cuban link chain is old school Miami.
It is interesting because after the real cultural moment of the turnover chain that first season, even though Miami was not the first team to have a sideline prop, we were not. We just did it better than everybody else, and everybody thinks that we started it because it is so iconic.
I did.
Huh?
I did. I thought Miami started it.
I did too, honestly. And then I was just like, oh yeah. And then I forget, it's some small team. It was like New Mexico or like somebody you wouldn't like really watch. Because
I thought it was Alabama.
Huh?
We've been told by somebody else it was Alabama.
I thought it was a smaller team than
with some kind of turnover belt.
I mean, maybe it is, but in whatever way, I know that Miami was not the first, but we clearly took it to a level that is now proliferated across the college football, well, the sports landscape. You know what I mean? So with that being the case, I think that there's more of a case to keep them than get rid of them. Even though I am of the idea that maybe we should get rid of them, I see the extrinsic value, to others and just like what it means because it is the one that has really propagated all of this across the landscape of sports. So I don't know. I'm still slightly on the side of getting rid of them, but I think I'm more willing to listen to the case to keep them than I've been before.
Falcon Rex, we appreciate you being here. You know that. The way it started for Manny was not well done.
That's the other side of the coin that people were talking about, that he was Temple's coach for 13 days and then basically left overnight, to come and take the job here. And yeah, he did to another school what was, kind of sort of done to him. And I get it. But it, again, it's the cost of doing business. You can get fired at any moment. And with all due respect, if you had an athletic director worth the damn, he would have been fired way before he was. So, sorry.
Hurricane smoothies. Where's that smoothness?
Smoothness, yeah.
I think you need another S on there, Hurricane. Anyway, DVD, Stay, and T-Rob.
So it's DeMarcus Van Dyke, the cornerback coach, and Travaris Robinson, the defensive backs coach. I think that there's a chance more for T-Rob than DVD, because DVD has only done this for 1 year as an on-field coach. I think we've seen development from his players, but I don't know. I mean, I think that you're probably going to have a younger coach at maybe one spot on the staff, i.e., DVD with 1 year of experience versus T-Rob with over a decade, So maybe he could. If it were me, I would keep them both, if it were me. But it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be real interesting to see how this staff is put together.
Boy, Chancellor.
One time for the kid-friendly show, Cam. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I feel your frustration. Yeah, no, I let a couple 4-letter words fly to this week that I don't usually. But I mean, at least on here, y'all follow me on Twitter. You know that I curse. But yeah, just raw, unbridled emotion with not as much of a filter as I would otherwise sometimes feel on it. But yeah, if your kids are watching and they want to know what those choice words were, I'm sorry that I put you in the spot where you had to have that conversation.
Oh, man. All right. Carroll City Kane 305. Appreciate you being here as always. Thoughts on how unprepared the Ducks looked against Utah again? Mario is making money, and if he doesn't bring a natty, will it be a failure in your eyes?
Again, I think that and I think we've seen it proven conclusively that Utah was a better team this year, and just a pretty bad matchup. They were able to stop a lot of that running. The run game for Oregon that had been so great for them and covered the many deficiencies of their quarterback. And when it became time for him to throw the ball, Anthony Brown, with all due respect, just can't. And that, and when the field started tilting, right, a little bit of like, all right, Oregon can't run, so now they really have to throw. Now they're down 3 touchdowns now, and then it was just really to a point where they're pinning their ears back, they're getting up the field, and then Anthony Brown, just even with open guys, he's not good. He's just not, But you go from that, and then you go to Tyler Van Dyke, who looks like a high first-round draft pick. He's got to be. I mean, him and Bryce Young. I don't know that there's another quarterback in the country more than Bryce Young, or over Bryce Young, that I would be looking forward to next year, other than Tyler Van Dyke. So you go from that situation to this, and again, they were Utah was built to beat Oregon. They were built to take away what they did well, and then the other thing is Oregon, this year's version of them, they really only did that one thing well. So when you take that away, it really it was a house of cards and it crumbled. So, yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily even know that they were unprepared. I just don't think that they were up to the task this year. And that sometimes happens. Again, this is a 10-3 team, right? So we're not talking about losing or being in a 2-point game to Appalachian State. We're not talking about losing to a bad Virginia team. We're not talking about any of those things that Oregon did. They did not do any of those things. They beat those teams, right? So they're still, and I know you're going to look at the losses because the losses are magnified, but look at the 10 wins as well. Again, a 2-tutty win in Columbus at the Horseshoe. Hello, somebody. 1 touchdown?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody said 2 on the timeline.
Still, they won 35-28.
Okay, but still,
yeah,
you go in there and you win that game. That's a game that happened as well, right? So that's that's the other side of it. But yes, Mario is making big money. The staff is going to be paid handsomely as well. And yeah, I expect championships. That's where my focus has always been. Obviously, start with division, then go to conference, and then go to national. That is what it should be. But I'm not going to say that by next year it has to be that. You can still take steps forward and not win the championship. But if we're 5 years on and it's not been a first round playoff look, with a probable expanded playoff that is going to be 12 teams, you know what I mean? Maybe first round, maybe something like that. Now we're going to really have to have questions. But yeah, the expectation is championships, but also giving the grace of a little time towards getting there. So I'm not going to say that it's going to get worse before it's going to get better. It needs to be where it is and go up. But yeah, my goal and focus is on championships as well.
Okay, hopefully I did not lose track of where. There we are. Because for a team or an individual to lose their sights of the work that needs to be put in first and foremost, to not be caught up on goals, number one. Number two, to not understand the progression of goals. You can't win a national championship if you can't win your division. You can't win the conference without getting to the conference championship game. Right. Win the division. That's all you can do from week to week is win the game in front of you, which will culminate in winning the division. Then you're suddenly in a conference championship game, not saying, okay, we want to beat Clemson and win the ACC. Well, win the games week to week, and you will find yourself playing most likely Clemson in the ACC championship game.
Mm-hmm. And to me, yeah, I mean, and again, the timeline for that, it's progressional. So step here, step there. And, we want to make 2 or 3 steps at a time. That would be great, but yeah, giving the time to do the work and then having a clear path, and again, if you look at the job that was done at Oregon, and I know that they were maybe in a little bit better spot when we got there than Miami is now.
Maybe.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's a conversation to be had. So
4-8, 7-6, the 2 years before he got there.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So it's not, even that, it's way better or worse in either spot. But I mean, yeah, it really needs to start to step forward. And I mean, just off the top of my head, like you can start to see, well, you're going to have all new quarterbacks in the Coastal Division, with the exception of Tyler Van Dyke and Jeff Sims at Georgia Tech. Everybody else has a new quarterback, right? You're going to have other guys leaving. You have, Clemson losing both of their coordinators, and who knows how that's going to go, because they already, they're not the Clemson that they were for, this golden age run. Florida State, even though we lost them this year, which was terrible, they're average at best, so if you're looking at who's coming from the other side, Wake Forest, I think they caught lightning in a bottle. I don't think they're going to be this good again. You're going to lose a lot of these guys. You're going to lose, from this roster. So, like, there's a clear, but then again, even with the clear path and everything, there's been a similarly clear path for a long time for Miami, and they failed to step up. But hey, you get there. I mean, Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett is done with his 17 years of eligibility, so he's gone, and like it's there for the taking.
So even though the challenge and the path has only been accomplished the one time in 2017 to get to the ACC championship game, it's a much different scenario than, let's say, Billy Napier taking over at Florida, where they've got to face a giant. So they got to get over the giant. And they even have a number of peers in their division, Tennessee, Kentucky, who are just as good talent-wise and probably more functional right now in winning games at a higher rate than they are. Where Miami, you can clearly look at the rest of the division and look at Miami, and it's all about Miami just not executing. Again, they beat the two best teams on their schedule in the conference this year. So when they were right or anywhere close to being right, they beat NC State, they beat Pitt. They've beaten the division champion 3 years in a row. So on that, when they lined up against the team that won the division, they beat them.
It's all right there. But it's the inconsistency, and it's, again, not as playing down to and below the level of the opposition. There's no reason these games should have been close, and that's another thing that I would like to see, just personally and narratively. I would like to see Miami step on people a little bit, instead of a 3-point, 4-point, get that extra touchdown and field goal, make it a 17-point win. You know what I mean? Instead of a 4-point close game. You don't have to let them be around. You don't have to wait for them. You don't have to. It does not have to be a close game. It does not. And it's not just the FCS bye week. It does not have to be a close game. And we've seen that on the other side. North Carolina 2020. That could have been a close game, right? If they would have said, well, Miami's not stopping a counterplay. So we've scored on it 3 times. We're going to go away from that. We're going to try to integrate Sam Howell more for a Heisman moment, or to build towards next year for a Heisman, right? We're going to try to throw the ball. We're going to because he only had 220 yards or something, 218 passing in that game, because they ran it for 1 million freaking yards, right? But had they done that, that would have been akin to what Miami has done, and been like, oh, well, we're going to, we want it to be close. I don't need it to be close. I don't need it to be close. I don't. And I hope that we, take that forward. But yeah, to Mark's point, it's been a lot of Miami not doing what Miami needs to do. And again, seeing in the other weeks of handling business, you beat NC State, you beat Pittsburgh this year, you beat the conference or the division champion 3 years in a row. So why is that then not you who's the division champion? Because you handled the business. Because you didn't handle business, because the coach, unfortunately, didn't have the range.
So my bottom line point is, to get to the goals of a conference championship and a national championship, there is work to do. There are upgrades that need to take place. To win this division, though, basically capable coaching will win the division with the roster that's already in place, in my opinion.
As long as you don't burn the building down, like, it should be fine. But we have found ways to create conflagrations all over the place recently.
Bergie, appreciate you being here. The info on Brady is incorrect about Brady at LSU. Yes, Steve Ensminger, we know this, was the offensive coordinator. This was already stated. He had Brady call red zone offense inside the 12. Interesting. Third downs and other packages designed for him to call. Yo, Cam.
Yo, Bergie. Okay, well, I was today years old when I heard that. So if that is true, obviously I think that set him on a path, Joe Brady, that is, to become an NFL offensive coordinator like he was for the last year and a half, and everything. But that, again, then also supports what I've said, that if we bring him in, that there's less to be trepidatious about, because he then also has experience at this level and the NFL level, even if it's partial experience, like Bergie noted.
So our next question is about, and I'm familiar with this name, but I can't, who are we talking about here? Brian McClendon.
He spelled it wrong. It's with an E, McClendon.
McClendon.
He's a running backs coach who's been around. Hold on. New tab. Brian McClendon. Yeah, I'm sorry, co-offensive. He's a wide receivers coach. No, he coached running backs at Georgia. Okay, I was right. So coached running backs at Georgia for a little bit. Was interim head coach for the bowl game after Rick was let go, and he's coached wide receivers at South Carolina and Oregon. And didn't he play running back? No, he played wide receiver. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we have spots, man. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the Oregon wide receivers, but especially if you look back at when he was at South Carolina, he had, a couple really nice receivers over there. And then obviously I think that the value in recruiting would be there, and a big reason why to bring him on. But I'm not as excited about potentially bringing in Brian McClendon as I am about bringing in Alex Mirabal, because, well, first of all, Alex Mirabal has already been spotted out places recruiting with Manny Diaz wearing a Miami polo, like when they went to Miami Central's practice with 7 coaches yesterday. So, there's that, and that's assured. I mean, that's his best friend. That's his man, 50 grand. Like, he's coming. McClendon, not as enthusiastic about that. I would think that might be a little uninspired. I would like to maybe see if he's the choice because he's the choice, I'm fine with it. If he's the choice just because he worked with him last couple of years in Oregon, I would like to see us evaluate what the other options are before just settling for somebody he's worked with in that kind of a way. And I know that seems like talking out the side of my neck because I just said, well, Alex Mirabal, but he's also demonstrated excellence as offensive line coach, and there's the close personal relationship between those guys more than there is with Brian McClendon, who could work here. He would not be a substandard coach, I don't think. I just think that it might be a little uninspired, given the amount of money that we have to spend to simply just bring over everybody from Oregon without evaluating who could be here on the staff.
So the Dan Radakovich news has obviously been hot for a few days here. ESPN's going with it just in the last 15 or 20 minutes about it being official.
Uh-huh.
So you had alluded to Radakovich, bless you. You'd alluded to Radakovich having ties to Miami.
Yeah. No, he got his MBA from Miami, and he started his career in the athletic department. I think it was 82. He graduated his MBA, or 83, and then worked the next 3-4 years-ish in the athletic department. Then, if I believe, when I looked it up last week, Radakovich, if I just click on this really quickly, he got his MBA, and then he was an athletic business manager. So an MBA in 83, and then the next 3 years, 83, 84, and 85. He was an athletic business manager, which is an entry-level position in the athletic department at the University of Miami, and then went on from there to associate AD spots at Long Beach State, South Carolina. He was the AD at the American University for a year, senior associate AD at LSU, before 6 years of AD at Georgia Tech, and then the last decade at Clemson as AD.
So, of course, the crystal ball hiring gets all the attention because the head football coach is the name and the face that everyone looks at of the most important sports team for most universities. But my goodness, this guy's coming from Clemson. He's been there for a decade when they dominated in football. I don't know what kind of role he played, but obviously this Blake James transition to Radakovich is an enormous upgrade as well.
Saying, you know,
and you being a fan of the entire sports program across the board, this is doubly fantastic news.
Yeah. And, you know, shout out to Sebastian's Pub. I don't know who runs their Twitter account for their blog, but we interact often, whichever one of I think it might be Vishnu's brother or cousin or something. But they've been tweeting about not forgetting about baseball, because baseball needs a reckoning as well. And Greg Lovelady, who I've mentioned before, former Miami catcher on a College World Series championship team. He was the backup catcher. He wasn't a starting catcher. Coached at Wright State University. And I have a couple of personal friends who played for him again. And they would go down to the SEC country for the first or second series of the year and win those series pretty consistently. I think when Aaron and Tony were there for their 5 years at Wright State, I think they won 4 of those series against SEC teams at Wright State University in Ohio, which, like, come on, guys. And then now he's actually up at UCF. Greg Lovelady is the head coach. Bring him in. Like, that is the answer for your alumni head coaching issue with another, you know, premium sport at the University of Miami. You know, and then basketball, I think, also needs to be looked at as well. But hey, you know, Coach L signed 4 4-stars in this recruiting class. You know, so we'll see. But I would say maybe to have an idea for the future for the basketball program as well, because Coach L is in his 70s and he's not going to coach forever. But that being said, yeah, it is great to have, like, kind of administrator that I think the Miami needs to have, you know, running things, because with all due respect to Blake James as a person, his work product demonstrated that he did not. And, you know, Justin DeTavio wrote about it, the fact that the athletic director was not doing a great job. That was a few years ago on State of the U. JP, I think, wrote about it, or somebody else this year. I think it was JP, the same topic, that, you know, Blake James needed to go. And, I mean, he's gone for that reason.